Happy Friday, everybody. Another week closer to college football. Alabama continuing fall camp. Crimson Tide set to open against Florida State in Tallahassee. We're recording this on August 15th, 15 days away from kickoff. So things are certainly rolling. I know the last time we recorded, I think we probably could have repurposed everything we said about Ty Simpson. He got named the starter hours after officially the morning after from offense coordinator Ryan Grubb. Kind of a different show in store today. We're going to do kind of a player draft between Mike, Alex, and myself, kind of going up and down the roster for what we've seen from fall camp and looking ahead into the season. But before we get into that, Alabama getting their second scrimmage in this Saturday in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and I believe open to media one last time next Tuesday, the 19th, I believe it is. Whatever day that is. I know it's the 19th, but kind of going into the weekend and going into next week, Mike, I feel like I'm always asking, what's your one big thing about Alabama right now?
I mean, if they hadn't announced the starter on Monday, it would obviously be about the starter. But I posed a question on the radio this morning in Mobile, Alabama, and I said, what if Ty Simpson throws like 4 interceptions in a scrimmage? And what if Keelan Russell or Austin Mack just completely lights it up? Does that change who the starter is for week one? I think the answer is no. I don't think you can backtrack on what you've already announced. And ultimately, that's just one piece of the puzzle. It's only one little sample size. So I don't know if the scrimmage means anything for the starting quarterback job. In fact, I would almost say it doesn't. But the number 2 job is still open based on what Ryan Grubb said during the week. And that is still intriguing, and who performs better out of Austin Mack and Keelan Russell in this scrimmage could determine who's the number 2 going into the Florida State game. I would probably still lean towards Austin Mack, given he's a little bit more experienced, but I think Alabama keeps leaving the door open for Keelan Russell. I think that's been the story all along. It's like if Keelan Russell comes along to just an incredible extent very quickly, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field, whether that means being as a starter or being as a number 2 quarterback. So that door, it feels like they're just leaving it open. Like, all right, if Keelan shows it, then we'll give it to him. It's not to say he hasn't shown it, but I don't know if he's like blown the doors off where it's like, we need to start Keelan Russell week 1. And I don't know if it will be blowing the doors off where it's like, we need to have Keelan Russell in the backup role ready to go if Ty Simpson misses a play or whatever the case may be. So I've said it all along. I think it's all about Keelan Russell. And in that sense, it's probably a big scrimmage for him. And, also for Austin Mack. I just don't know if it's a big scrimmage for Ty Simpson because Ty, whatever he does, he's still going to be the starter week 1. Obviously, you would like to have him build more chemistry, get some momentum, whatever you want to call it. But if he doesn't, I don't know if it means anything.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of that, and I know we had talked about in the last show, is he going to redshirt? It seemed like this staff, I don't think is going to come out and say, hey, we're redshirting Keelan. It seems like it's going to go week by week, but Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say that, as far as that's concerned, I don't know how long the leash is for Ty. And that's not to say that I think he's going to fail, but I think you just don't know what he is. So to say we're going to come out and do X, Y, Z with any quarterback would just be pigeonholing yourself. There's no reason to do it. No, I kind of woke up this morning thinking, okay, Ty is off the table, and the image that came to mind was like that meme from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where Will Smith's in the house and there's nobody else there. I'm like, where did all of our storylines go? Like that was the thing we were caring about all summer. That was it, and it's still there. Like there are background things that we're going to talk about. Like I think health is going to be a big thing going into the scrimmage and also coming out. Like, is Jaden Roberts healthy? Is he back competing for that guard spot? Where is he at in that pecking order? James Smith, talented defensive lineman, has been out for a little bit with a hand injury. So is he going to be back in there? I think Mike has said it, and I think it's right. Like the number one thing right now is just trying to keep guys healthy and get to August 30th in Tallahassee in shape.
Yeah, we've got a great Bama247 roundtable up. Again, we're going to be doing those every week, and that was kind of one of my big focus, just staying healthy over the next couple of weeks. Because, like Mike said, you get an injury, you're very close to kickoff, and you're close to boarding that plane for Tallahassee, and it's going to be here before you know it. But that's awesome. Flipping gears now, we're getting into draft mode, a war room. Get into your war rooms. Alex kind of flashed his notes before we started recording here, so.
It's a blank page. It just has positions. That's all it's got on there. I just need to keep in my brain.
And I will say, just for fans who are paying attention to the scrimmage on Saturday, it actually has been moved back to later in the day. And now Kalen DeBoer will speak at 3:30 on Saturday afternoon is the new plan from Alabama. So anybody who was waiting around on Saturday to listen to Kalen DeBoer, he is now at 3:30 Central. Sorry, Alex.
Mike always bringing the
scrimmage you're doing this weekend one, so here we are.
Mike bringing the breaking AP poll last week and doing the Kalen DeBoer delayed press conference this week. So Mike's
what does it mean?
the Brian Windhorse arms.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of got this I got this idea from our friends over at Dogs247. They do kind of a player draft. I believe it's in the fall and springtime. Always kind of generate some conversation. So I thought, why not? We're gonna kind of do something that we're going to be able to go up and down the roster. We're going to be drafting each of us a running back, a combination of 2 wide receivers or a tight end, 2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, a pair of edge/linebackers, however we want to phrase that in this Alabama defense, and then 2 DBs. You can pick any player you want at any position at any time. So if you want to go and grab Dijon Lee with your first pick, Mike, or whoever, you can grab him and then you can go down or vice versa. Well, you don't need to go in any particular order. We'll stick to an order. We'll do a snake draft. We'll start with Mr. Mike, the 1-1 of the Alabama. And I know we kind of talked about this off camera. We're not like grading what's kind of, how do you guys going into this? Like, how are you kind of drafting these players? Are you potential
an all-star team? Come on, man.
Okay, all right.
I want to beat you guys.
I'm drafting to win a game this week.
Yeah.
I'm not drafting to win a game in 5 years. I'm drafting to win a game this week.
Okay.
Play to win the game.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Well, great Herm Edwards.
With the first pick, Mike.
He always said hi to me. Like whenever I worked at ESPN, I would always see him, and he would always say hi to me. Like he knew me for like 10 years. I don't think he ever knew my name, but he acted like he knew me since I was a kid.
You liked your vibes.
Yeah, I guess so. I like his vibes. So look, did you say you have names written down?
No, it's blank. I'm just trying to keep track of who I got. I've got like 3 names in my head that I would take with the first pick.
So we obviously can't draft the same guys. So it's going to be based on who each other drafts. All right. I'm going to throw a wild card in here, and I'm going to draft a defensive lineman first. I'm going to draft Tim Keenan because I feel like he, as I said all offseason, is such an important player to this team. It was such a big, underrated player to get back from last year that if you don't have him, look, I think Jeremiah Beeman's certainly come along, but I want Tim Keenan in there. And I would have some concerns playing in the SEC and stopping the run and holding up over the course of a season if you didn't have Tim Keenan. So that you build from the trenches out. I'm starting with Tim Keenan.
Great pick.
Alex, this is strategy on Mike's part. He knows the defensive line is maybe a little thin. Let's get the guy at the top. I had the same thought, but in reverse. I'm going to start in the trenches. I'm going with Parker Brailsford. I think if we're talking about who's the most underrated person in an entire program, I think it's him. I think he brings it every single week. I don't care that he's on the underside. He's undersized compared to other offensive linemen. He puts in work in the weight room, and without a really good center, you don't really have anything. So give me Parker with my first pick.
Love it. I know we said we're kind of drafting for tomorrow, but bear with me. I'm going to go Deontay Lawson here because I've always said how important the linebacker position is, obviously in defense in general, and certainly in this Kane Womack. Just talking with recruits and families of recruits and coaches, and we joked about it. We called that linebacker room old in the nicest way possible. I think Deontay, having him back is crucial, and I think he's going to be healthy. Everything suggests he's going to be ready to go for Florida State. So give me linebacker Deontay Lawson.
Okay.
I guess, and I'm up again, I guess.
Snake draft.
Yep. But give me go into the. I would feel not smart if I didn't go into the trenches here. So I'm going to go. Give me Caden Proctor. I know we've talked about it. There's there's some questions marks. I mean, look at him. He's an NFL tackle, but sometimes it isn't really put together. It looks like I kind of stole some of your picks. If you want to give some thoughts on Proctor, you can. But give me Caden Proctor.
Yeah, I'll give a quick thought on Caden Proctor just before Alex goes. This is Jordan Reed from ESPN, one of their draft experts, who this morning posted a tier list of some teams, college teams, and where they would have some draft picks. And he mentioned Caden Proctor off the top for Alabama, but he quoted an AFC assistant general manager who said, "There are moments where I'm a big believer, and then he'll have a few quarters that leave me scratching my head, like the fourth quarter against Oklahoma and against Michigan in the bowl game." So that's the NFL vibe right now on Caden Proctor.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. Now, I could throw back that he was playing with one arm tied behind his back, playing through a shoulder injury all year. But at the end of the day, like, you got to be healthy. You can't be constantly injured to be out there. And when he is healthy, when he is on, he's elite. But you got to show that through an entire course of a season. Otherwise, you're not an All-American, and you're definitely not a first-round pick. But I mean, nobody's debating that all the potential in the world was there.
I believe it is Alex.
All right. This may be early for this guy. I think he's going to be a freaking stud. Quay Russo. I think when you're looking at the guy outside of LT, who might be the next pick, who knows, has the highest potential in terms of being a disruptor on defense. Everything you hear about the offseason he had, his athleticism, the way he works, he's consistently at the front of that line of that wolf position. And I know Kane wants to do a little bit more with him this year. Maybe a little bit early, but I'm willing to venture and go after Quay.
So that leaves me next. There's some different directions I can go. I'm going to, you know what? I'll do Damani Jackson.
Okay.
Because there's a few different directions I can go. I think DB is a deeper group. So if I did skip out on this pick, there'd be some other options. But people are probably sleeping on Damani a little bit just because of whatever. I don't even know what the reason is, but he's a pretty good player. And as a senior this year, I don't know why he couldn't be one of the best corners in the country. I don't know why he couldn't be a first-round pick. I don't know why he couldn't win the Jim Thorpe Award. Like, I think all those things are on the table for him, being All-American. Like, that's the level of recruit that he was going into USC when he chose USC over Alabama. And then when Alabama picked him up, Nick Saban, one of his last moves was to bring in Damani Jackson, and Nick Saban knows DBs. So I think he got that one right. And he's got one more year here and could be a big year. So I'll go with Damani.
Good pick. Damani's solid as it comes. Mike, I think you got another pick now, though.
Yep. That's right, because we're snaking around.
Yep.
Look, I keep avoiding this, but I feel like I need to do it. If I'm going to pick a running back, I feel like I have to pick Jam Miller. I don't know.
Have to do anything.
Is that your pick?
If you don't love a draft pick, you shouldn't make it. I don't think there's any GM out there.
I'm probably reaching
I don't know.
to pick him in the third round, just like an NFL team might be reaching to pick Jam Miller in the third round. In fact, in Jordan Reed's piece, he notes that Jam Miller is a determined runner who enters the second season as the Tide starting running back. He's likely a day 3 pick, which feels right for Jam Miller. That feels kind of where he is because he's not the most explosive, not the most dynamic player. I don't think the NFL is going to be picking him in the first 3 rounds. But I'm going to pick him in the third round of our draft because I don't know what to think of what's behind him. And I don't know who I would pick if I did not pick Jam Miller. So Jam Miller. I'm
hoping Alex doesn't double up on edge rushers here.
I'm not. Everything you said about Damani is great. He's going to be really good. Xavier Brown's going to be even better.
Yeah.
I think Xavier is a freaking stud. I think he does. It's just shades of Pat Surtain, and I know that's ridiculous to say, but just the way he came in with an understanding of technically how to play the position, the way he carries himself like a pro, and then you put a 5-star athleticism on top of all of that. Last season was just scratching the surface. I think this kid is going to be elite. I think Damani's really good. Don't get me wrong, but Zabian just looks like a guy who's going to be a high first-round pick 2 years from now, and is going to be an All-Pro. And I don't know how I can bet against that potential.
Yeah, I mean, everything you heard about that kid coming out of high school and watching. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see, like, watching him, the technician and the fundamentals, and for him to come in kind of with a lot of expectations and start 13 games, and excel was incredible.
And as much rotating as they did on defense, they never really took him off the field. So that tells you what they think about him too.
Absolutely.
After the first few weeks of the season, they took him off for Jalen Mbakwe.
Yeah.
And then they figured out, hey, Zabian's pretty good. We shouldn't take him off.
Oh, he had his natural, freshman. I mean, yeah, that USF game, there was a couple overthrows that kind of went over that he got, but just
we're lucky they had Hiram Brown throwing.
I'm going to go with LT Overton. Kind of speaks for itself there. It is available in the third round, so I'm going to take him there. And going into the fourth round, I'm kind of surprised the receiver hasn't been picked, and maybe that's why. Maybe it's because
there's a lot of them.
And I'm kind of crazy. I'm stuck between two, which I wouldn't think I'd be saying, but I'm going to stick with. I'm going to go with Ryan Williams.
Ryan Williams going in the fourth round.
Fifth? It's more about the position. You started this problem, Mike, by basically saying, I'm going to go for the spots that have the least depth.
Right.
So we're all trying to get as many guys as we can early.
I'm drafting for need and not for value.
Yes. By the way, unfair that you guys get double picks this whole time, and I'm just stuck here with one.
Malcolm in the middle.
Feel right. Ryan Williams is a great pick. Again, I feel like I'm going to do the same thing like Mike did with Damani, where it's like you can have that receiver. I'll have the guy who I think is actually produced at a higher level and more consistently. Give me Jeremy Bernard. The guy does everything on the football field. And because he's not a former 5-star, because he didn't single-handedly demolish Georgia, I think he just gets overlooked. And I think he's a guy who is on NFL radars for a reason. And I think another year under his belt is going to rise up draft boards. So why not have him on mine?
Who was that again?
Jeremy Bernard.
Okay. So that leaves me really stuck. I need to, I guess, pick a wide receiver now, because if I don't, then you guys are going to pick Isaiah Horton. So it's my pick, right? Isaiah Horton is my pick. It's a run on receivers. I think Isaiah Horton is just as capable of having a big year as Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams are. I'd be really interested to see how that splits at the end of the year between those three. And yeah, I mean, it's the obvious pick right now. I got to do it.
Back to the Mike Rodak war room.
It's back to me. All right. I haven't picked an O lineman yet, and I feel like the two that came off the board were the two obvious ones, Proctor and Brailsford. And then I don't know where to go from there, but I'm going to go with Wilkin Formby, because if I don't know who my tackle would be, if you will. I think Formby's obviously in a solid position to start at right tackle. We'll have to see how well he performs. Sounds like he's healthier than last year, the wrist injury, but if it's the guard's position, I don't really know. Like, I don't really know where to go on that right now. So I'm going to stay away from the guard position as long as I can and go with Wilkin Formby.
It's a good pick. I mean, Mike's been a little bit on the fence about Wilkin, a little skeptical of Wilkin, so I'm surprised a little bit.
Well, this is what you do in the fifth round.
He's got a scout in his ear that just ran into the war room saying, we just got this confirmed measurement on Wilkin.
He's had a good offseason, so you're buying in. That's what I'm hearing. All right. Another guy who's had a really good offseason, another guy who's stepping into a starting role. Give me James Smith. You already took Tim Keenan, so you screwed me a little bit there. But James actually, I think, in some ways has the potential to bring a little bit more of a diversified skill set to the table, as opposed to Tim, who's more of kind of a space eater, takes on extra blocks, is elite at doing that. But I think James got a little bit more quick twitch ability and might be able to get to the quarterback a little bit more. I think he's poised to have a really big season. And I think if that happens, I think that's one of those things that can take Alabama's defense from good to elite.
I like it. Give me Keon Sabb. You talk about kind of some of these guys that fit the mold of a Saban take in the secondary. And from the minute he kind of joined that program, I've been like, this kid is special. He showed it last year before getting hurt. I think, was it Kane Womack saying he was getting some opportunity at Husky as well? So is that what he said? I think
Jason Jones, the
right, that's right.
Mentioned he was cross training a little bit. We'll have to see how that plays out in the field. But to your point, Keon Sabb, and I've covered a lot of NFL players. I feel like I'm talking to an NFL player when I talk to Keon Sabb. Just very mature. I think he's a guy that is going to interview extremely well at the combine.
Yep.
And whatever else he does, the Senior Bowl potentially in the winter. So you're right. He's a Saban player, very intelligent sort of defensive back who knows what he's doing out there.
Yeah. And then for my turnaround pick, I'm going to go. I know you talked about guard and it's kind of unknown, but I'm going to go Geno because we know how much
Damn, Geno from me.
Coach Cap loves him. The versatility there. I've got Caden Proctor at my tackle. If Geno needs to go play all 4 other positions, it seems like he can. I don't know if he actually can, but you know what they talk, the Swiss Army knife, all that. So I'm going to go Geno.
See, now I'm stuck because we've got these positions we've got to fill. We've only got so many starters.
See, this is why I did what I did.
Yes, yeah. We should just pick the best players, and then it could have been a lot easier. All right. This is tough. You know what? I'm not going to do what I think I was going to do. Look, give me Justin Jefferson. I think another year in this system. He is a 6th-year player, but the learning curve on guys who had to go to JUCO comes in, learns the Nick Saban system, has a coaching change, is a 3rd linebacker, gets that surprise extra year of eligibility. His athleticism is just off the charts. He can fly around on the football field. And I think if you get him knowing where he needs to go better than he did a year ago, you can unlock that. I expect him to be the starter alongside Deontay Lawson, and I expect him to fly around and make plays.
That brings me, I'm going to fill out my wide receiver / tight end room by picking Josh Cuevas.
Ooh.
Because I feel like he's an underrated piece that not underrated necessarily, and he's better than people think. I think we'll have to see that, but underrated in terms of what he can mean to this team. Like, he's your starting tight end. He's going to be called upon to block. He's going to be called upon in the passing game occasionally. He's not fully healthy right now. He's been missed entire spring. He was limited in the start of fall camp, wasn't 100%. It seems like he'll probably be back 100% for the Florida State game. But if it's not him at tight end, I have no idea. That is a position right now I just don't know. The number 2 tight end is it's like one of those graphics where the thing's just all black and it's like a question mark in the middle. I don't know. Like, you can throw 6 different guys in there.
What's the saying? You have 7 tight ends, you don't have one. I think
you have one starting tight end, and I think you have like 6 other guys that are competing for the second role. Like, I don't know.
Bad? Okay, if it plays out where Cuevas is the only reliable tight end, how big of a problem is that?
It's not a huge problem, but I think it's a bigger problem than people might think.
Yeah.
Because of, again, it depends on how much 12 personnel you play. I was going to say 21. That'll be 2 backs. 12 personnel that you play, which I think was more than we expected last year because Oots and Dupree are on the field a decent amount. I think everybody wants Alabama to have 3 receivers on the field every single play. I don't know if it's always going to be the defense, if the situation is always going to dictate that. And I think you're going to need times where you need a big body at tight end to go and block. So maybe that's Jay Lindsey, maybe that's Danny Lewis, maybe that's Brody Dalton, maybe that's Caleb Edwards, maybe that's Jackson Marco. I don't know. We'll find out.
You're up. 7th round, coming off a pick of Josh Cuevas, Mike Rodak.
All right. I got to go with an edge / linebacker before I'm really stuck. So I'm going to go with Nikhai Hill-Green, which if you guys already took Lawson and Jefferson, then that kind of leaves me with Nikhai Hill-Green as your 3rd linebacker. And look, Justin Jefferson played a decent amount last year as Alabama's 3rd inside linebacker behind Deontay Lawson and Jahad Campbell, even before Lawson's injury, which was pretty late in the year, the Oklahoma game. So I think there could be a decent amount of opportunity for Hill-Green to play. I don't think it's as much as we would have expected when he first signed. But that's it's what the board dictates. So I'm going with Hill Green.
All right. I don't know how he fell this long. Bray Hubbard.
Yep.
Look, it's a small sample size. It's 6 starts, but the way he came in for Keon Sabb and just didn't miss a beat last year was really impressive. I think it said a lot about his understanding of the game. A guy who played quarterback in high school, I believe, just not afraid of contact, will go after the football, makes plays. And then I just think having Keon alongside him as a guy who's more of your center fielder that lets Bray be the guy who kind of runs downhill, I think he's set up to have a really big year. And I know Alabama fans are really excited about him, but I think the rest of the country is going to get a good look at what he does as a high safety.
That is a great pick. I'm stuck here because I don't have any defensive linemen, and I'm going to take him because if I don't, I'm going to be kicking myself. I'm going to go Jeremiah Beeman. I think we've seen the staff's rotation, and it's heavy rotation. And James Smith's already dealing with some injuries. We don't know what he's going to look like. So I think Jeremiah Beeman's going to play a lot this year. So give me the Birmingham native, and then for my circle back, I'm going to go. And to your point, I don't know if having someone behind Josh Quaves is that big of a deal. I think they're going to put a lot of wide receivers out there. Give me Rico Scott.
It's the obvious pick. You're going to go.
It is. I was hoping he would still be there because now I have problems on my board because there's not really a starting defensive lineman left. You know what?
Cole Adams would like a word.
Cole Adams, wide receiver. Look, but Mike's going to bring this point up, so I'm just going to beat him to the punch. Only so many receivers can play.
Right. I'm down on Cole Adams this year.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know where Cole fits in all of this unless he could potentially be a guy on special teams who can make a difference. Give me Jaden Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
I got to bet on his potential. There's a reason, despite not technically being a starter right now, I guess you could say, that people think of him in terms of being a guy who could be all conference because he does have all the physical traits. The NFL is going to look at him and go, holy cow, they don't make guys like that in the lab because he's huge. He can move, and we know he can squat 900 pounds or whatever the heck it is now. I just have to bet that when he's healthy, the light will come on and we'll still see that potential, whether that takes, it's next week, the week after, a few weeks into the season. I'm not giving up on that guy.
I like that pick. I mean, Jaden Roberts in the 8th round. We did this. I mean, talk about value.
I mean, that shows how. I mean, it's like I'm getting Shadur Sanders way down in the draft. Like, okay, if you want to leave me a guy with that kind of upside, but we also can't ignore the way he's fallen on the depth chart and the injuries that he's dealing with right now. So it's not a no risk pick, but this late in the draft with who's on the board, give me J-Rob.
All right, so that brings it to me. Look, I'm going to fill up my defensive line with Jordan Renaud because I feel like that's a player that people just don't know. They just don't think about because everybody's so obsessed with Keon Keeley that Jordan Renaud was playing over Keon Keeley last year. Alex asked Kane Womack this week about players who have changed his perception, during fall camp, and Renaud was one of the players that really stood out of Kane. And all expectation on my end is that the number 2 bandit to start the season is going to be Jordan Renaud, and he's going to get on the field a decent amount. And he did get on the field towards the end of last year, especially when Jamarian Latham moved to Wolf when Q Robinson got hurt. So Renaud's my pick, number 11 on the edge, but he's a defensive lineman actually in this draft, which leaves me with a defensive back to pick. I'm going to pick another guy that people just don't talk about, but is going to play a hell of a lot of snaps this year. And his name is Deshaun Jones. Because, again, just nobody really knows who he is, but he rotated in at corner last year, seemed to play pretty well. And then he was your Husky for the bowl game last year after Devontae Smith left. So he is, by all indications, your starting Husky this year, number 7. And that's the defensive back that will fill out my room, which leaves me 2 spots, I believe.
Yep.
Well, at this point, we're just picking like stocks and penny stocks and seeing what's gonna hit. So, with that in mind, give me Lazio Brooks. I don't really know how much he's gonna play. I just know that what we saw in the spring, just elite quick twitch, can get by guys and make them look slow. Is he polished enough and ready to play receiver at this level yet? I don't know that. But I just think he's probably going to get a chance to show what he can do, whether that's at receiver, whether that's at special teams. He's one of those guys that, you take now and you hope he's not a project. Maybe he jumps up and surprises people. So give me lots here.
I like it. I'm going to go defensive lineman. I'm going to go Kelby Collins.
Woo!
Go Kelby Collins there.
Over Edric Hill.
Yeah.
That's it. Look, it's an interesting competition there, I think, to see who your 4th defensive tackle is. And I think it's between those 2 guys. And I'd be very interested to see which one has the more snaps against Florida State. And as I mentioned in my story yesterday, I think you will have to rotate a lot of defensive linemen when you're playing in probably 90-degree humidity in Tallahassee. You're going to have to rotate a lot of big bodies. And we'll probably see both of them. But if you're asking me who has the more snaps, I'd probably lean toward Edric Hill over Kelby Collins. That's just my gut feeling.
Gotcha. My turnaround pick. So I've got a running back and a defensive back left. I think as far as running back goes, I may go with what Alex doesn't pick, or, kind of just, between the other 2. So I'm going to go defensive back here. I'm stuck. I'm flipping a coin, but I'm going to go with the more experienced guy. I'm going to go Cam Calhoun.
Yeah, that's the right pick. I think Cam's going to contribute. I can't tell you if that's as a 3rd cornerback, as a slot cornerback, some special teams. I don't know, but he's going to see the field.
And real quick, something that kind of stuck with me, listen back at last episode, what you said, like how his teammates gravitate towards him. Like that was one of the first things I learned about, like talking with guys over at Utah. Like that team's just pro. Their defense is very similar to Alabama. It's just the way they carry themselves. The locker room's very similar as well. So I felt like that was going to be an easy transition. So it's nice to hear that.
Yeah. All right. Give me Daniel Hill. If we're going with the guy who I think has maybe the most potential to surprise and actually be a difference maker at running back, I think it might be him. And maybe that's just betting on upside and there's so much unknown. But he's got a little bit of pop. He's got really good size. You just hear that he's doing all the right things this offseason. I like Richard Young. I kind of sneaky like Dre Washington more than a lot of people do, but I think Daniel Hill feels like the biggest wild card. And this late in the draft, I'd rather take him and feel like, 3 months from now, look like a really smart person. Even though right now I will tell you that I'm just kind of doing it on a lark. But I think maybe it could be a thing.
Well, we're drafting different strategies here. I'm drafting to win the game tomorrow, and so the player I'm going to fill out
a long season, Mike. There's games tomorrow, and there's going to be games in October,
right,
November, and December, and maybe if they're really good in January,
there may be a game in December. We don't know that. We'll find out. I'm going to fill out my edge room with Jamarian Latham, guy that's just kind of been there. He's just kind of there. I'm going to put it that way. Like, he's been here 6 years. I don't know if the casual Alabama fan even knows him. I don't know if there's a single play I can think of in those 6 years, 5 years to this point, that have stood out from Jamarian Latham. There's maybe one time in the backfield, but he's just there, and he seems to be relied upon by coaches, and they seem to respect kind of what he brings. And that, to me, still indicates him being the second wolf on the field behind Quay Russo, even though I think there's certainly more upside in what you have behind him, and Noah Carter, Justin Hill, and Yonze Pierre. But Jamarian Latham's just kind of there, and he's just still there.
I would not want to be drafted by Mike Rodak. If I get drafted, and this is the day I get into the league.
It's like, hey,
we got an introductory press conference, and he's up there on the podium, and I see the tweet come across. he was there.
He was there.
I might not be there anymore. I might say I'm going back to school for
You're
another
going to pull an
year.
Eli Manning?
Yeah, this is like the most conservative draft. I've ever seen anywhere.
Mike would write his own headline for that one.
Yeah.
Like the report on itself.
It's like college basketball. Get old, stay old. I'm staying old with Jamarian Latham and with Deshaun Jones, a combined 11 years in college football by the end of this year. And I'm going to add another senior, a 4-year senior, as my final pick, and that's Cam Dewberry as my final offensive lineman, because that's kind of where I have to go at offensive line. I don't know where else I would go. I mean, again, I could draft for upside, but if I'm trying to win a game tomorrow, I'm not sure Michael Carroll is helping Alabama win a game tomorrow. I'm not even sure Jackson Lloyd is either.
Cam Dewberry with 1,000 snaps of SEC experience in the 11th round is pretty damn good.
And look, I think if you ask me right now, who is Alabama's starting left guard when they walk out onto the field in Florida State or in Tallahassee at 3:30 Eastern on August 30th, I think it's Cam Dewberry at left guard. I don't know what that means for the whole game. I don't know what that means for the rest of September. I don't know what that means for the rest of the season. Right now, I think it's probably Cam Dewberry. And I think it could be Geno Vandermark at right guard. But that's my final pick.
Yeah. Mike's ultra conservative draft. Look, in the immortal words of Billy Napier, scared money don't make money. Give me Keon Keeley as my last pick in the draft
for D-line.
I had to pick a defensive lineman, so don't kill me for picking the guy that everybody wants to talk about and nothing ever happens. The vibes are good, and maybe he hasn't, maybe he had a good offseason. Maybe the light's clicking with a guy who's got a 5-star talent. Maybe he's just a guy they put on the field on third down and turn him loose. But if I need a defensive lineman, I'd rather go with the guy with more upside than the guy you say is just there. That's just weak. I'd rather look silly drafting Keon or look smart. I don't want to live in between. Give me Keon Keeley to round out my team.
You want some more breaking news?
Yes, we do.
Part of the Michigan penalty. Jim Harbaugh gets a 10-year show cause, which is still 5 years less than Brad Bohannon. But Connor Stallion only gets a 8-year show cause. So Jim Harbaugh gets a 10-year show cause, which I'm sure he does not give a flying shit about because he's never coming back to college.
Like, coming back, one of those guys is never getting hired anyways.
Right.
So.
It's kind of symbolic, but
did somebody even go into Harbaugh's office and tell him that? Like, what's even? Oh, you can't go back to college for 10 years.
Somebody's going to ask him about it. Chargers press conference, I'm sure. But yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point.
Just got word. One more bonus pick for everybody. It can be anybody you want. You're trying to win now. You're trying to stock up. Whoever it wants to be, we'll give you 10 seconds here to kind of drum it up. And Alex, because you were stuck in the middle, I'm going to give Alex the first pick. This is the entire roster, non-quarterback. So someone your last. We're going to an expansion draft. One more pick for everybody.
Expansion draft. Oh.
One more
I
pick.
got a compensatory pick.
Yeah.
So I traded somebody. I traded Kendrick Law, Emmanuel Henderson, and everybody in the world to get one more pick. And suddenly I'm on the spot and I'm not prepared for this. Give me Yonze Pierre.
Yonze Pierre. It's not who I would have thought.
No, look, I didn't have enough time to think about this. You just dropped it on me, and I just thought, who can get to the quarterback? That's been my focus all offseason. Is like, Alabama's pass rush was not good enough last year. Who's the guy who, despite what we saw in media viewing periods where he was at the back of the line, Kane's brought Yonze up a couple different times, and it just leads me to believe with his skill set that he's a guy. Maybe they said it with Keon Keeley, but unfortunately Yonze was not a defensive lineman. They can turn loose and maybe go get to the quarterback.
Mike had a little bit longer to think, so Mike, go.
Connor Talty. I mean, you need a kicker to win a game. Like, I don't know who's kicking the ball if you don't have a kicker. So Connor Talty, and
my team
for better or worse, fans are going to know who he is by the end of the year. So we'll see.
I'm going to go. I'm going
glowing reviews of your own team. I mean, we're drafting to be 500.
I need a kicker. I don't know what you do without a kicker.
I'm going to go. I would go Caleb Edwards here. I mean, I know we've had some fun at it and poked at it. I know Cuevas has had some injuries and stuff, but I mean, he continues to be brought up. Tight end, he could serve as a big blocker for me at 6'6", 264 pounds as well. So I'm going to take Caleb Edwards to wrap up our official Bama247 player draft. We're going to get this up in writing, and I'll get this up for everybody to kind of look at and have some fun and see who maybe won the draft. But guys, appreciate it. Is there any last thoughts or come out of the draft or anything that come to mind while we were talking about it, about the Alabama football again, 15 days away from kickoff?
Somebody might say, why did nobody take Dijon Lee? I just want to address that. I think Dijon Lee is a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got very good potential, but I just think it's a crowded backfield, defensive backfield. And if he plays, I think it'll be pretty sparingly. And barring an injury, I think he's probably a guy you're looking at for 2026. But
who's maybe, and to wrap it up, and who's maybe someone kind of in a similar situation on offense that you would kind of say, hey, we would like to pick him, but it's 22. Is it a Michael Carroll and Jackson Lloyd? Are those the two?
Maybe, but somebody already picked Latsier Brooks. I still would question how much he plays. Just like I honestly would think Dijon Lee actually plays more than Latsier this year, if you ask me right now. But
I feel that way a little bit about Caleb Edwards, just because I think the potential's certainly there, but I don't think Cuevas is coming off the field, and I don't know if physically he's a guy who you want as that inline blocker to just kind of put his hand in the dirt and be that guy you rely upon. It's just a lot to ask of a true freshman playing in the SEC. I think he's another guy who I think people should be excited about, but I think kind of temper that excitement and hope that they're building it the right way for 2026.
Absolutely. Guys, this was a lot of fun, more fun than I thought it would be, and hopefully it'll be some good interactions. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for watching. Again, we're recording on a Friday. We'll get this up soon after 15 days till kickoff. We'll be here before we know it, and we'll be back on Roll Pod very soon, early next week, per usual. Thanks, guys.